St. Louis's trusted source and number one
for conservative talk.
This is News Talk STL.
We're now joined by Rick Manning from Americans for Limited Government. And Rick, first of all, hey, good chat with you again. So the Biden administration says, boy, we got to get people fired up about Bidenomics. We got to really reach out to those swing state voters, especially those minority voters who are feeling the pinch of Bidenomics. So we're going to send out Kamala Harris to be the salesperson for Bidenomics. Am I close to to assessing the game plan on that right now?
That is the game plan, because she polls really well with. They're targeting. This is the interesting part, Mike. They're targeting black males. Okay, this is an astonishing admission that the Biden campaign, 5 or 6 months before the election, is in trouble with black males. Now, we've seen polling that's indicated before, but I don't believe polling until I started seeing campaigns act on the polling. And sending Kamala Harris out for as poor of a spokesperson as she is, to try to make a case that the Biden administration has been good for black males who have rejected Bidenomics in a massive way. I mean, polls show that black males are dropping away from voting for Biden in significant numbers. And that's the difference between winning Georgia and losing Georgia. That's the difference between winning Michigan and losing Michigan. That's the difference between winning Pennsylvania and losing Pennsylvania. So they're scared to death over this. And yes, Kamala Harris, who can't put 7 words together without making a salad, is busily explaining Bidenomics to black male voters who kind of know, based on what they're experiencing, that it's been bad. And it's just astonishing. It shows you how weak they are. You don't lead with an unpopular vice president unless you have a popular president, and they can't trust Joe Biden to go out and talk to people, because every time he does, it ends up on YouTube.
Good morning, Rick. Gabe Pfeiffer here. So I'm actually surprised that they chose Kamala Harris for this job, because as far as I remember, she doesn't particularly pull well with black male voters either. Or am I reading that wrong?
Did they oversample all of the black men she put in prison in California?
They undersampled.
Sorry.
Well, yeah, she doesn't pull well with black men. She pulls slightly better than Joe Biden does.
Okay. I gotcha. That's the best of what's left, I guess.
It's astonishing that a party that made being a black female a criteria for being chosen for vice president 4 years later doesn't have anybody who can credibly talk to black males. It's astonishing failure of not only their policies, but the personalities that have chosen to lead it. And, I'm just mind boggled by it. But folks, I mean, realize inflation hits people in the lower 40% quintile of the low 40% of the economic classes more than it hates everybody else. Because people, the less money you have, the more you're spending on staples. You don't have a lot of extra dough. And when things go up out of your control and you don't have things you can cut, you're in trouble. And the Biden administration, that's what inflation does. And their answer is, we're spending a lot of money here to try to fix this problem. And apparently economics has been, wasn't allowed to be taught in the schools that they went to, because spending a lot of government money is the reason inflation exists. So they're saying, we're dumping a bunch of money, and they said this. They literally say this out loud. We're dumping a bunch of money to solve this problem, which is an inflation problem, and the money they're spending just causes more inflation and devalues the dollar more. It's astonishing. It's such bad economics. It's almost unbelievable. But yeah, that's their argument. They're hoping that economic illiteracy will win the day. The problem they have is the price of gas, the price of eggs, and the like. People aren't illiterate about that, and they can't run away from it.
Yeah, I mean, you don't need to read Hayek or Mises or somebody like that, or even on the left to get the basic terms to understand. it sucks right now. Things are more expensive right now, and it's happened in the last 2.5 years or so. So, Rick, is this a matter of trying to keep them going to the polls, or are they worried about them going to the polls and voting for Trump or voting for RFK or voting for somebody else? Because I mean, this is a demographic, when you're talking about black male voters, that typically overwhelmingly votes for Democrats, but has been starting to shift a little bit towards Republican over the last couple. So what's the end game? Preserve the votes or preserve them coming out to the polls in hopes that they'll hold their nose and vote for Democrats?
Well, they want them to come out and vote for Biden. That's because, as you said, these are votes that they're losing. So if black voters don't go out and vote, that's a half a vote that they lost. Trump may not have gotten it on his side of the ledger, but they got it, but they didn't get it on theirs. So they need blacks to come out in the record numbers that they came out in 2020, and come out and vote in 85 to 15, 88 to 12, which I think is what it was in 2020, in favor of Biden. If they don't, if the number just goes to 80-20, that's a massive loss of votes in critical areas for Biden. And so they can't afford any attrition because they're not picking up votes anywhere else.
Hey, good morning, Rick. Stal Ponticus here. So regarding Kamala, boy, when all you're known for really is your cackle, I think there's a problem there. I'm just saying. But if it's all about the economy, stupid, as we heard a few years ago, how are they going to avoid the problems of inflation, debt, and crazy spending? Because I don't see any way out of it.
Yeah, I mean, what's the messaging to overcome that?
Well, their messaging is, we're pouring a lot of money into your community. Mm-hmm. You should be thankful for the amount of money we're pouring into your community. You should, and as a result, they're attempting to create through traditional, spending money on programs and stuff, create traditional coalitions. Unfortunately for them, they're not credible messengers in terms of that. And their hope in terms of inflation is that it doesn't show up. This big spend doesn't show up in the numbers until after they voted. So if you spend it now, so you spend it over the next 5 months, the hope is it doesn't hit the numbers, doesn't hit the actual shelves in terms of price increases until 2025. Reality of this is, this administration is attacking our agriculture community, and deliberately through environmental regs that deal specifically with the fertilizers that increase production. They are attacking our agriculture community in terms of environmental regs that make it harder to farm. And as a result, when you attack the people who grow the food, don't expect food not to be more expensive. When diesel costs are so high that the farmers are saying, I'm not going to plant that field because I can't afford to run the tractor to take care of it and to plow it out and then harvest it. When they do that, they take fields out of production, and that's their goal. Their goal is to do that because they're trying to change the way the world operates through driving fuel costs so high that people like that those changes occur. And so the higher food costs is part of their plan. They can't run away from their plan. And so now they're trying to trick people into saying, well, I'm going to give you a bunch of goodies up front in this election year and pay no attention to the fact that on the back end, not only are we causing inflation from a monetary standpoint, but we're causing it based on our regulatory regime that is hurting farmers and driving costs up by driving supply down. That is the reality. That's what they're doing, and now they're trying to run it back and trick people one more time. And the fact of the matter is, I think America has gotten wise to them. And the amazing part is, the more they go after Donald Trump and try to put him in jail, the more black men look at that and they say, that's what they've been doing to us. They've been targeting us. And so the reality is, when rappers come out and say, Hunter Biden got off on a gun charge that I ended up getting thrown in a pokey for, and they're out talking about this, that two-system set of justice that they've created, blacks have felt that there's been a
two-tier you're thinking of.
Two-tier justice, two-tier justice system for a long time. I've only said this for like 20 years. Two-tier justice system for a long, long time. And as a result, the more they go after Trump with made-up charges, the more blacks say that's what they do to us, and the more empathy they have for Trump. They're trapped in their own lawfare universe where inflation's bad. They're being rejected by an audience that has traditionally voted for blacks or voted for Democrats for 50 years. And now they're making the president of the United States, their opponent, into a sympathetic figure in the black community. I don't know how they could do more, how they could make less of a case and create more of a crisis for themselves. But these people are pretty good at creating crises. Now they're the victims of their own crisis. So it's just astonishing. And I've watched the polling. Truthfully, I didn't believe the polling, even though we've written about it a lot. I didn't believe it. But now that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are out stumping and trying to make it so they can appeal to black male voters, tells me that the polling that is seen in the national level, their internal polls that they take that they don't release must be disastrously bad.
Rick, I was going to ask how, if you were going to make any predictions, how well this information campaign was going to go, but it sounds like you're very pessimistic about the Democrats being able to dupe us again this time. So do you think these changes that we're seeing in the demographics of the vote may actually pan out during the election?
Yeah, I think that first of all, it's the turnout machine the Democrats have is pretty incredible, particularly their inner city turnout machine. Sure. And so I have I always view these kind of numbers with a bit of skepticism. What I know is if they have to spend money, and in a world of even limited resources for them, and if they have to spend money trying to get their base voter to vote for them and to care about them enough to go to the polls, if they, enough to send in a mail-in ballot or give it to somebody who walks by and collects it, if they're having to worry about that and spend money on that and spend brain power on that, that's disastrous. You never want to be consolidating your base this late into a campaign. They should have had you need to have your base consolidated early on. And the only thing they've really got to tell their base is Trump bad. And at some point, when things are costing you too much, when you're seeing your jobs being affected by policies and it's kind of just out of control, you sit there and you say, wait a second, we need to change. This isn't working. And the great news is the more people of color are being integrated in a meaningful way into the economy, where they have businesses, they have success, they have something to hold on to, and not just government dependency, the less they're going to buy the garbage the Democrats are selling.
All right.
And that appears to be what's happening.
All right, Rick Manning from Americans for Limited Government. Let's go ahead and get the website information out there. I get your newsletter, the Daily Torch, but people want to sign up for that. We're just getting in touch. What's the way to do it?
Go to dailytorch.com, dailytorch.com. We got a lot of polling stuff out there, but also a lot of interesting issues today. I've got a piece up that tries to explain what's going on Capitol Hill and why all the Republicans are fighting. You can read it, you can agree with me, you can disagree with me, but it's free and it's always fun.
All right, thanks, Rick. Good to talk to you again.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
For podcast articles and more, find us on newstalkstl.com.